So I am, we'll kind of get going and I'll watch the waiting room for anyone else that's joining. I'm Diane Dobson and I am the current CEO of the Renton Chamber of Commerce. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today for Coffee with the Cop. And this is their first virtual approach to the Coffee with the Cop. And for a little historical background, Coffee with the Cop is now a national program. But it was started right here with the efforts of the Renton Police Department and Starbucks and the Renton Chamber. So it's they were trendsetters ahead of their time and in setting the pathway towards community engagement and having these open opportunities for conversation and getting to know one another. What I will do at this point is I will introduce Sandra Havlik. Sandra Havlik is the Community Programs Coordinator with the Renton Police Department, and she can help out with the introductions from there.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's been a long time since we've done Talk to the Cop, so we're pretty excited about it in the new virtual world. We couldn't really go into business right now and try to do this, so working with the chamber worked well for us, and they're always willing to help us do these kinds of programs and reach out to you. So we wanted to have this Talk to the Cop available, and who I brought in with me today. So I'll explain my role a little bit. So in community programs, as you know, like Coffee with the Cop program, Business Watch, we have our 3 of us in this department that focus on social media, and there's Neighborhood Watch and all of our other programs that involve officers. It could be the trick or treat event, it could be our Renton River Days, all kinds of programs that we do. So Coffee with the Cop is one way to do outreach. And so it's always been successful for us that we could have these types of conversations where it's just very casual. So the concept is just a casual conversation where you can finally ask questions that you might not to get, you're not going to ask in a 911 situation, right? When you're with an officer because of an emergency. This gives you a time to actually, sit down with one, ask why we do things that we do, why we train the way we do, why we do traffic stops the way we do, or anything that you come up with. So I have Cyndie Morris on this call, who is my other community programs coordinator, and her focus is on neighborhood watch and social media as well. Then we have Commander Rutledge, new commander Rutledge. Some of you might know him as Sergeant Rutledge, who's been focusing on the downtown area and other parts of our city for the debt team. We have a lot of times on bikes, or they focus on specific areas of our city that need attention. I'll let him explain that. And then we have Deputy Chief Schuldt. So Cyndie, I'll just let you just introduce yourself. I kind of said, but in case I missed, just everybody kind of hears you talk and gets to see you.
Did you ask me? Because I turned off my.
Yeah.
Yeah, since we're right across from each other, mine keeps cutting out. I think that's causing a conflict with my sound. So I'm Cyndie Morris, former Cindy Parks. I've been with the department quite a while. As Sandra said, I'm one of the community programs coordinators, and I do a lot of the social media stuff along with Sandra. And the Coffee with the Cop has always been one of our favorite things to do. This is our first virtual one, so it's a little different, but I'm glad that you guys were able to join us. And my focus, as she said, is residential, and I work with a lot of the apartment communities, and we do a whole host of other job responsibilities. But I'm happy to be with y'all here tonight. It's kind of nice reaching out to the public again after so long. Everything's just so weird now. It makes me feel good every time I get to join a Zoom meeting where there's community members, because I think maybe I miss everybody, and I miss being able to, touch base the people that work and live in our city. I think I'm never going to take advantage of that again because I miss y'all. So, hi.
If you don't mind, I go. Big thank you first off to Diane and the Chamber for hosting this. Like Sandra and Cyndie both said, it's been a long time coming, and we were hoping, I guess at the beginning of all this, that we'd actually be back in person and able to make contact. But given the current situation, given the current situation, this is kind of what we have to deal with. And Diane mentioned at the start of this, when we first started this through the chamber with Sean Greenlee, who was a huge help with Starbucks in getting all these organized originally for us. And another point, I think Sandra, Cyndie are being kind of modest. Without either of them, our outreach efforts would be up to guys like me and Sergeant Rutledge, which our ability to do this and reach out would be significantly reduced. So huge thank you to them and their other partner, Stephanie, who's not with us tonight. Little about me. I've been with the city for about 25 years. I'm currently the deputy chief, kind of over some of the support divisions, like Ryan's group, the bicycle group downtown, and our administrative services with Sandra and Cyndie. But it's really a pleasure to be here. We really enjoy getting out, talking to the community. This is our opportunities, like Sandra kind of mentioned. When you call 911 or you're on a traffic stop, it's probably not the right opportunity that you have to ask a cop a question or to talk about some concerns you have. So we really enjoy getting the feedback from the community, irrelevant if it's good or bad. Just how can we improve? How can we help our service to you? So we really enjoy coming out and being able to hear how we can improve our services, or if you have questions about how we do something. This is a great opportunity for us to get that feedback. So I appreciate everyone being here and taking part tonight. Ryan, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Chief. Again, thanks, Chamber, for putting this on, Diane and Ashley. Thanks for the nice introduction, Sandra. I appreciate it. I guess the background I'll start with for me, and then I'll go into what I do here at work. I grew up in Renton. I was born and raised. I grew up on Arlington Hill. Did most of my youth sports up in Skyway. I went to Bryn Mawr Elementary School, Nelson Middle School, since it was shut down back then, and then Renton High School. After college, I ended up back here in Renton. It was a great fit. I knew the geography really well. I did my first 5 years of patrol, went into a special operations division, doing narcotics investigations and proactive work. I got promoted and ended up back in the special operations division after a short stint in patrol with our direct enforcement team, where I'm at now. Our team, we mentioned earlier, do a lot of contacts downtown, a lot of community engagement events. We balance a lot because we're also a resource to pretty much every other division in our department through our investigations, our narcotics group, and even outside agencies where we help assist with kind of a wide variety, pretty much anything you can name. Specific to our downtown core, though, we try to do as much outreach with businesses as we can. I know this has been a really tough year for everybody, but prior to the COVID times, we'd like to get out, get into businesses, meet the owners, meet the employees, have these conversations like we're having today, where it's not in an emotional, like a call for service, for example. We could have those one-on-ones, get on a first name basis, and just spread information and get input on how we can help, and like Deputy Chief said, give a better service to our community. That's a little bit about me. If you guys have more questions, I'd be happy to answer. I probably won't have all the answers, but I'll try my best. And if I don't, we'll make sure to find out how we can get you guys the right answer.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Cyndie and DC too. So I see we have a few people here. I'm hoping throughout, we've given a couple hours for it. Like we said, we don't have to use the whole time, but we could have people come in and out. We have a couple options if you'd like, since there's a few of us here, we should be able to cover any subject, I hope, that comes up tonight. But we can take your questions. If you feel more comfortable sending me a message, I can take your question that way. Or if you want, you could raise your hand. I don't think there's too many of us where we talk over each other. So if you just want to unmute yourself and kind of start, we can do it that way too, whatever makes you guys comfortable. If you have a question that you think you're not sure who it goes to, then just say that and one of us will speak up. If it's for a specific unit, we might start with go to the Deputy Chief or something like that. So does anybody have a question at this time?
I mean, if there isn't anything, we could kind of start. The whole reason we're here is because it's kind of been a crazy year. I know, especially for us in the department, the whole COVID, which is why we're doing the virtual, and everyone's gotten so good at Zoom and all that. So that was some huge challenges for us in the police department, getting over how do we, how do we now go to calls for service? How do we do we go into people's homes? What do we have to do with our personal protective equipment when we go into one? Initially, when we were still kind of in the infancy of trying to figure that out, we had some officers even go into a CPR in progress. Whenever someone calls and they've had a heart attack or CPR, they'll dispatch the fire department, but because the police department's always kind of out patrolling, we can always beat the fire department to a call for service, especially in a life-saving event like that. So we'll usually get there and get our AEDs out, and the officers, unbeknownst to them, are not even thinking about it because we weren't in a COVID mindset at the time, went in and started immediately administering CPR to a gentleman. And he ended up being COVID positive. He ended up surviving the CPR, but at the same time ended up, all of our officers ended up being exposed to the COVID. So that was our kind of first taste of how are we going to react in situations like that. And especially when we value life as kind of one of our highest priorities within the police department. You don't want to tell officers that, no, you cannot go to these types of calls, because it flies right in the face of why they're out there to protect life. So we did have to make a few changes and make sure that before anyone goes into anything, you're suiting up, you're masking up, you have glasses on. That was kind of our first taste of 2020, right? Dealing with that. From there, I mean, you guys probably all felt it. We're starting to feel some of the constraints of what's happened with the economy. And, with less tax dollars coming into the city, it kind of puts a little bit of you have to tighten up our budget also. For our staffing numbers, we're allotted 129 commissioned officers. Because of we weren't quite up to staff. So right now we had to freeze 7 positions. That at this point, that doesn't mean there's any cut in services. We can still maintain our current service levels. We may not be able to sustain it forever, and hopefully the economy comes back to a point where we can start ramping back up our staffing. But we've put our staffing where we know we need it, with the patrol officers and with units like Ryan's squad that are going to be responding immediately to the calls for service. Then as we started thinking, okay, maybe things can't get any worse, then Minneapolis happens. And that's a huge black eye. I mean, we pride ourselves in getting out into our community and trying to build those bridges of trust. And in one fell swoop, and something that's happened halfway across the country, all those bridges can be torn down. And now that's why one of the reasons we're trying to get out and reconnect and do some of these is try to assure everyone. I mean, that's not the Renton Police Department. That's not our culture. We don't believe in what happened there. We look at it and we're just as disgusted as everyone else in what happened there. So that's why we want to get back out and talk and meet with our community, assure them that our culture, our training, I mean, it flies in the face of everything we do. And especially, like I had said before, we value the sanctity of human life above anything. So looking at that, we were all kind of dumbfounded on how someone could do that. So our year, just like all of your guys' year, especially in this line of work, has been kind of a head scratcher and trying to figure out what else can happen. I mean, we always joke, what can happen now? Yeah, I know, we're hoping that let's just get this year over safely and we're through the worst. Trying to think, any questions based off anything or Ryan, do you have anything to add to?
No, I mean, that was well said. Just to feed off a little bit about what you're saying and how we try to contact all of our community members is through our values and our culture. I think it's a great thing to bring up, that we need to promote to continue building trust with our community. And so that goes to every single contact we make has an impact on somebody's life. And that's the way I see it. I know Deputy Chief does, because he's been my supervisor for several years. And that's treating everybody with respect and fairness and compassion and dignity. And so in all of our dealings, that contact we have affects that person for the rest of their life, and the perception they have of us as police officers. So that's something we take very, we think of very importantly to pass on to the folks that work in our work groups, and the new officers that are coming to our department, whether it be a new or even from a different agency, because they may have a different culture. And so that's a big thing that we promote, those values. And so it's just something I think is very important.
I agree exactly, kind of like what you said, and we've always preached this. Every contact you have with someone in public is a commercial for our agency. And how do you want that to be positive or negative? Because, like, if we have that negative contact, then they're gonna tell their friends, and then they're gonna tell their friends about what assholes we are. And that's not the reputation we want. We want to leave with a positive. They're not all going to be positive contacts. I mean, we are in law enforcement. Not everyone's going to be happy with decisions we have to make, sometimes on their behalf. But hopefully we're not doing that in a manner that's adding more issues to the problem. And Ryan hit on it perfectly when he talked about our values. We're kind of value-based in our decision-making. Some departments may be enforcement-based and want to make tight enforcement. We're value-based. We have a set of core values, and we call them kind of the guiding principles. It's integrity, service, professionalism, and valor. And we tell everyone, we have a huge policy book. There's state laws, there's everything else. But if you forget everything else, and in the heat of the moment, if you think back to what our values are, you're going to make the right decision. And we will back you on that decision every time. If you can say, what I did was based off this value. I did this because I thought it was providing service to people, or whatever. The integrity piece is another huge one for us. But so that's kind of our thought process. And Ryan hit on our culture. We really think that's what separates us from some of the other departments. And when we bring people in, we really want them to understand Renton's different. The expectations here are different. This is what we expect of you. So it's really important with the new officers. The people that are here know it and understand it. It's preached from the top down to everyone when they're in training, especially officers coming from other agencies, which right now, we were down a few spots where we're allotted to go up right now with the 7 frozen positions to kind of maintain so we can tread water at 122. Like I said, we're supposed to be at 129. But so right now we're still too short of getting to that 122. But it's kind of a gold mine for us right now with everything that's going on in Seattle, is we're able to maybe pick up some good lateral officers. We vet them. We make sure we're not getting people that have huge issues that were there. We bring them in, and they're already good people to start with. We know that from doing their background investigation, but then we kind of teach them our culture and our way of doing things. We've had several people come from Seattle in the past, and just even them knowing the difference coming here as compared to there, they absolutely love it here. Typically it's a pay cut for them, but it's worth it for the environment that they get. They're actually happy coming to work again versus issues they had to deal with before.
Thank you, DC. Hey, I just want to welcome Dominic. I see you joined, so hi. We're just kind of kicking off, starting. We did some introductions. I'm Sandra from Community Programs. The Chamber's being great in hosting our first virtual coffee with
I've been here from the beginning.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't
so I've been here. I just barely turned on my camera.
Or not
I
on
finally
video?
came up with a nice background because.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I've been here.
Okay, good. So we did, Diane did tell me we had a question, Laura, so I'm sorry I missed your hand. You had a question for us?
Yeah, thanks for letting me ask a question, and thanks guys for everything that you guys do. I have this is a residential question, by the way. It's not pertaining to there is a drug house across the street from me, and my neighbor who lives next door to them, she kind of gives me the rundown of what's happening over there, but there's people going in all the time during the day, during the night, and I just wonder, like, without having to worry about retaliation, like, how do you approach that? Because I think it's a known quantity. One time I heard a noise, I did call the police, and one of the police officers says, well, you have a drug house over there. And so I was like, well, apparently they know about it. So, like, I would love to not have a drug house next door? And is there anything we can do as private citizens without having to fear for, our lives if we, I guess the rumor is that they're part of some Mexican cartel or something like that. So what's your advice?
I first want to ask, I can have two people probably talk on this, either Sergeant Rutledge or Cyndie, if you want to talk about, because Cyndie is our residential expert and does a lot of follow-up with that type of prevention. So Cyndie, did you hear her full question?
I did. And Ryan's unit is, they deal with that specifically. Either one of us can really answer it. I think our two answers will be different because we both do completely different things. So I'll tackle it first, and then Ryan, I'll let you chat if you want. So typically, when you have a drug house in a community, it wouldn't be unusual that officers would know about it, because having a drug house doesn't necessarily equate to the fact that we can remove somebody's residency. So trying to prove a crime versus us whether or not we know it, we probably do know about it. So let's say we make an arrest out of that house. It doesn't remove the residency of the people that live there. So how I tackle it on my end is I get the information from the complainant. So if you want to email me that information as to the address, that would be lovely. And I'll put my email address on the chat. But I typically will start looking at it. Is it a rental? Who lives there? Who owns it? I start accounting for all the calls for service. I've worked here just a little over 26 years. So I start, if I recognize names, I might run them. And really all of that background work is in preparation for deciding what to do about it. So if I feel like I can get a response or I can tackle it from the homeowner's end, if it's a rental, then I try to do all of that first. If there's really no response, or if there's no effectiveness result, and I feel like we're kind of stuck and I need something a little stronger to go at this place, then I get a hold of Commander Rutledge, Sergeant Rutledge's unit. And what I try to do is do as much of the background administrative work as I can before I hand it off to them. And I'll let him talk about kind of how they tackle those sorts of situations. So as Commander Rutledge is speaking, I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat room. If you could pull that, grab that, Laura. Send me as much information as you can,
Okay.
but specifically the address, that would be great.
Okay.
And then I'll start working on that right away. It's actually one of my favorite things to do is projects like that. So I really like to put the work in. And I'll let Ryan now speak on kind of what they do when Cyndie gets them a package and says, okay, I've done all I can. Can you help me out?
All right, thanks.
Absolutely. And Laura, sorry you're going through that. Unfortunately, it's something I think a lot of us share at some point in our lives. I've had the same experience. After I bought my first house, we had a rental next door that was a problem and turned into a drug house. And so I faced it from the other side, even while I was a law enforcement officer early in my career. And so I had the same challenges you did. I faced those same problems, and like you, had to go out and ask my local jurisdiction of how that worked. As I gained more experience, specifically in narcotics investigations, I know Deputy Chief Schuldt was my supervisor in that unit for a long time, so he's very knowledgeable as well, but they're challenging. We may know what's going on, you guys know what's going on, but then we have to prove it. And so we use different strategies on how we do that. And it really depends on how much activity that we see. And so we'll start to dedicate time. We'll find out from you specifics or maybe other neighbors, certain times of the day that this is occurring. And so we could be out there at the times that that activity is occurring, so we could document it and we can come up with a plan. So through that, there's plainclothes, undercover surveillance tactics we can use, uniformed stops if we can develop a reasonable suspicion that we believe, based on our training experience and documented activities, that then we can go and make stops and contact people to try to figure out what is going on. And then you probably see it on certain TV shows, the use of confidential informants, where they're willing to give us information about what's occurring. And so we use a lot of different strategies. We just have to pick the right one for the right investigation to come to a resolution that works. And our goal is always what's going to be the best resolution. Maybe we need to put a little bit more time into it to make kind of a more definite, a better resolution for everybody involved. So that would be when Cyndie comes into play, where maybe it's a rental and we can work on the ownership there and turn it into an eviction process. And those have their challenges as well. But we want to make the best resolution for the neighborhood as possible. It's instead of just maybe one quick arrest where they get out of jail the next day and continue their activity. We may start with that, but ultimately our end goal is to how to best serve that community. So that's kind of a long answer. It's not super specific, but if we get the information, we can start looking into it and then go from there.
Okay, thanks so much. I'll take it offline.
I think what Ryan really hit on is our two main things that we look at is safety to our community and the quality of life to our community, and how important those are. Ryan and I both worked in the same narcotics unit for a number of years, and that's how we always looked. A lot of what we did was even marijuana grows at homes, which a lot of people would say, well, marijuana is legal now, what's the big deal? And it has a huge impact on the neighbors and the community. So we put the time into those just with that understanding of, in the end, King County might not even file a case on them, but at least we've gone and taken that out of that community so that at least they feel safer and it's not an issue for them anymore. So yeah, please forward that information on. I know we'll follow up on it.
Shayna, I see your hand, but Manami, I think you had a hand raised. Am I right? You had a question? Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Renton Police Department and the officers. I had the opportunity that was not a great opportunity because I had to call 911 to get officers come to my residence in June. But I just want to thank you guys for timely response, and I felt I was very anxious and scared, but I felt safe and assured when you guys arrived. So thank you so much for that, especially in this, craziness going on. I wasn't sure, response time would be different. But, I felt safe and secure and assured. So thank you so much. And related to, during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown quarantine time, it is more of a general question, but do you receive more calls, may not be, necessarily going out there and check on people, but maybe people call in for anxiety or, generally scared, or any increase in call volumes?
That's a great question. Well, first, I wanted to say, sorry that you had to go through the 911 call, and I'm glad everything worked out. And it's great to hear that you appreciate the officers. We love to pass that along to everybody that works here. So that means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
As for calls for service, somebody here may have more specific numbers on stats, but just from what I hear from our work day, we work a swing shift. Specific to anxiety, I haven't noticed anything that's that I don't think is out of the ordinary. We're getting some welfare checks on folks, but those are still pretty consistent, and that may be due to other issues like mental health or drug or alcohol abuse issues. But specific to anxiety or like emotional because of the virus, I haven't noticed anything that was significant, unless somebody else has some numbers that they want to present.
I think it's Sandra or Cyndie, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but typically in a year we respond to a little over 80,000 calls for service. And this year we're, I think, drastically down from that number.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I actually have some numbers for you if you want to look at them. Diane, I just need you to, if you could just do the share screen option on the bottom for everyone, then I can share my screen. I think that calls for service are down through compared to last year because so many people are home now, right? Businesses downtown aren't, there's things that just not occupied like they were, right? But I would say suspicious person calls and vehicles has gone up only because if you think about it, a lot more of us are at home. So now you're seeing things going on around your house that maybe you weren't there before to see. So it's I'd say the dynamics of the calls have changed, but I'm, not the officers responding. But let me pull up some stats for you. I'd be happy to do that. So right now, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just for you to look at. This is our year to date for 2019. So we kind of track some, stats like the busiest reporting districts, and these are tracked monthly. So last year, so again, this is 2019, and then I'll kind of go towards where we're at this year. But if you're looking at the landing, which you figure people retail, there's shopping, that's a big area down there. It's what the 15 is, or the 25, that area in North Renton. So these are kind of the districts we look at, what's where we're getting a lot of our monthly calls from. But here's the type of 911 calls that we average per month. So alarms and animals are typically always our #1 calls, if you guys could believe that. But it's true. So alarms and animal, and then you can kind of see down here suspicious persons. That's 651. So that is an average a month. DUIs 41 average. You can kind of see these numbers here, and I'd be happy to share these documents with you if you guys want. This is kind of information I would take to a copy of the cop just as a handout so you guys can kind of see, because a lot of people aren't, don't know where we respond to the most or what types of calls or how many in a year. So down here, it's interesting, man. We have a population of 104,000, but yeah, like our deputy chief said, we're responding to 80,000 calls a year. If you look at our population, we're still averaging less than 1 911 call per person, right? Although, a household could have a few people. But these are typically our calls. So we're running about 80,000, 83,000. So then if I now just look at where we are August, so pull this up a little bit if you guys need it bigger. So August, our busiest districts have kind of moved. So the 15, which is downtown Walmart area, right, all around there, that's our busiest right now.
Hey, Sandra.
Yeah.
I'm not sure your screen changed if you were showing a new.
Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't. Okay. Oh, let me see. Thank you. Glad I don't want to be just talking to myself. Okay, let's try new share. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, now I see what I did. I think I could just keep on resharing, and obviously I can't do that. Okay, so here's just August. I'm taking last month's report, which August is just showing our average, and pretty soon we'll have September numbers out, right? Since I just sent it yesterday. But August is where this last one's from, and you can kind of just get a gist of the calls that are coming in for summer, because this would be typical of the summer. We call this District 15, kind of downtown around Walmart, the Red Lion, that whole area. That's right now is our busiest district. But see, now look, here's our types of calls again. So this is just August, but alarms and animals are #1 again. And then we move on to like auto thefts, which was the same on the 2019 numbers. So suspicious persons though, we're running about 594 in August compared to 550. That would have been July, the prior month. And then I'll scroll down calls for service. So right now at August, we are at 48,600 calls. We still have 4 months left. So if we add, let's just say an average of 24,000, if we just took our average over the last few years, we'll probably be, that'd be about 74,000 calls. So we will be a few thousand calls, it looks like, less than we were last year if the average kind of holds the same. And does anybody have any questions about that? Does that make sense? Or you have a specific, something you see on here you want to ask about? Just unmute yourself if you do. So I would ask, as I guess Sergeant Rutledge and Deputy Chief, you know, seeing these numbers, if you'd want to comment on kind of the districts downtown or where you're seeing the most activity, since I'm not the one out there patrolling.
No, I think one of the comments you made is about our alarm calls, and traditionally we've had a really high volume of alarm calls, and that's kind of been officers going out. We found that probably 99% of the alarm calls we were going to turned out to be false. So I think probably 2 years ago, the city instituted a new program. I think it was via ordinance from city council about repetitive alarm calls. So you guys as business owners or even at your residence might have probably got some of the information on having to register your alarm. And then there's actually the monetary penalties for repetitive false alarms now have gone up. And that was in hopes of reducing the amount of those calls that the police would be going to, instead of every time the alarm went off when it was probably going to be false. Now there's actually a penalty for us if we have to continue going out just because we're going to such a high volume of those. And the effect is it's been reduced greatly over what we used to go to for those calls. So it's helped from that aspect, that it still frees up some of the officers' time and not having to chase down false calls all the time.
Okay, Brian, did you have anything to add?
Not specific. I think you covered it well on calls for service. Unless somebody else has a specific question.
Okay, I know we have someone else with a question, but just on that, I guess I would ask for downtown, since some of our businesses and people probably on here are affected by that, what is happening and what are you seeing downtown with some of the businesses being closed and you guys patrolling the area?
I guess while folks are thinking of some questions to come up, one thing I could touch on specific to downtown that is some our unit deals with quite often is folks that are homeless, and you know, kind of the transitioning either through our city or in around our city, and some of the strategies over the years that we've tried to help folks that want help. It is challenging. There's some resistance to that, but one of the strategies we use is working with certain outreach groups. Catholic Community Services, they have representatives that will come help us out in the field. Salvation Army has, they call it a car camping outreach group, specific to folks that are living in cars. We actually utilize them today to assist us with some issues we're dealing with. Reach, Fire Department, where they work with Reach as well, FD Cares. But we try to get out as much as we can with mental health professionals or other outreach groups to target these folks proactively, to get them a place to stay or get them on a path to some kind of a success, some kind of a goal for them to reach, if it's housing or treatment or eventually job placement. And so, you know, the downtown, you know, we can see it and it kind of ebbs and flows, but we do try to get out as much as we can to target that. And I know that's something that commonly comes up when we talk to community members downtown or you know, around the trails or the libraries, and then with our business owners and employees. But maybe that can generate some questions as well from you guys. That's a small part of what we do, but it does come up.
This is Diana. In response to and thank you. I've had the opportunity to serve or to be in meetings and see the work that you guys are doing and the outreach that you're doing with the Parks Department and the various agencies and resources. So I don't question the approach that you have on a compassionate level for that human service. And thank you. It makes me proud of our police department to see the efforts that you take toward criminal enforcement that's still valuing and respecting that human life component as well. In the downtown core, I would say we are seeing a larger number of new faces of people that would appear to be experiencing homelessness. In particular, the Safeway, Shell Station, Fred Meyer, that corner and general vicinity seems to have a big pickup of numbers, and we're getting complaints to the chamber from businesses around the area. I had an opportunity to talk to the manager at Safeway and asked what we could proactively do together to maybe decrease the less than welcoming appearance of people that are hanging around on the property. And his feedback was if the police department could be doing more frequent drive-throughs, that people tend to scatter. They come back, but they do tend to scatter. So I don't know if that's something that from the chamber side, we should be encouraging them to have their own security. When I approached that with the manager, he said that their security really can do nothing. He said that their hands are tied. They don't have the permission to have any kind of proactive approach. And so the best results they see are from a collaborative partnership with you all.
I'll jump in, Deputy Chief, if you want to first.
No, go ahead. You're the boots down there.
And Shayna, we haven't forgot about you. I know we know you had a question.
So Diane and I have worked together a lot over the past 2.5 years. I know she just recently reached out, and our group is going to reach out to you as soon as we can. We know it's a problem, and it's an area that we've definitely targeted before, and it does have its challenges. We have folks that are shopping, and until there's a crime committed, we're not necessarily going to go out and make contact. We get through as much as we can, and we do that through patrols with our cars and on bikes. And if we see something there, we'll definitely deal with it. We have done some emphasis, in those lots throughout this year, making arrests when necessary, and then also directing those outreach folks if we need to. For the most part, if somebody is buying something and moving along, great, and we try to suggest those folks do that. I know the Safeway does have issues with people loitering after they buy food or drinks, and they do have signs now to assist us to help move folks along if needed. But we do appreciate the input. That's what we need from the business owners and the community for us to go give those efforts when needed. If we're being pulled in other areas, sometimes we need to be redirected to those problem spots when they pop back up. Did that answer it, Diane? If not, okay.
Okay. So Shayna, am I saying your name right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, good. Shayna, please go ahead. Thanks for being patient.
Yes, so I'm going to thank you guys for being patient because I have a lot of questions, actually.
Okay.
So my name is Shayna Hillman. I'm a teacher at New Horizons School in Renton. And so I have a lot of questions kind of geared towards kids, as well as some of my own kids. So I have a 9-year-old son who's autistic, and he is very, very afraid of police. Not quite sure why. But my question is what kind of training do you guys have in working with kids with autism as well as with adults with autism? Do you guys need to go through any special training, to be able to work with them? Like, what has your experience been with that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'll start at Rhett, and if I miss some, please chime in. So every year that the state mandates that we go through what we call crisis intervention training. So dealing with people that might have some kind of disability. So they actually, and since you mentioned autism, I think that was last year, that was the entire block was on people with autism and how to talk with them and how to get down to their level and really deal with them and try to make that connection instead of, you know, the old style of policing was, you know, I'm going to ask you to do it, I'm going to tell you to do it, then I'm going to make you do it. And that obviously isn't going to work on everyone. It rarely works effectively on anyone. But so the whole training was geared towards how to recognize someone with autism that might not be, you know, particularly paying attention to you initially, and how to be able to get to their level and speak to them. But yeah, it's a great question. And so we do a lot of training, and there's really been an emphasis probably in the last 3 or 4 years on having officers. It's actually mandated by the state that officers have to go through an initial 8 hours, and then there's follow-up to that training as the years go on. And with the passage last year or 2 years ago of I-940, that just even amplifies the amount of training that officers are going to have to go through every 2 years to deal with people with disabilities or mental health issues. So yeah, we do get a lot of training, and we'd be more than happy. And I think we always extend this to anyone like in your type of situation or has a concern. We'd be on whatever terms you'd want, more than happy to even come and just try reaching out or try talking. And again, we're very good at it and getting down to your son's level or anyone else. We love coming to schools and being able to even try to do that also.
That was my next question. Even with COVID going on, of course, I'm teaching remote, but would it be a possibility to have somebody come in during like one of my homeroom classes so you guys can talk to our students? Or what are you guys doing right now for those types of presentations with COVID?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. We love getting into the schools. One thing we've had focus groups, and they've always said, you know, we have officers in the high schools, but typically it's too late, right? We really want to make that connection with the elementary kids. And actually, the other staff member with Sandra and Cyndie, Stephanie, that's really her forte. She really reaches out to a lot of the elementary schools in our district. But yeah, we absolutely love to. I'm not sure we've done it a whole lot this year with, I know remote learning. My wife's a teacher in the Kent School District. So I understand the challenges that there are in doing that. But it's something we'd love to try. I mean, a year ago, if you told me we'd be doing coffee with a cop remotely like this, I would have said that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But look, nowadays, this is something that we have to, and we have to adjust to what the situation is. So yeah, we'd absolutely love the opportunity. And anytime we get to reach out, especially to kids, it's fun for us, but we know it has that impact too. And so anything we can do, we absolutely love to. And especially it's a lot funner for us when it's hands-on and in a school, but whatever we can do, we absolutely love to. Ryan, did I miss anything?
No, you touched on it. Sandra and Cyndie and Stephanie, they're fantastic about putting together all kinds of events involving kids from schools, the Cub Scouts or Girl Scouts, you kind of name it. We've gone into the preschool classes to give talks, answer questions, high fives before this. So if there's a way to figure it out, my group would be happy to do something like that, either through Zoom with you. And if I'm not sure who's sending out information, but feel free to share my contact information, and we could get something figured out. I think it's important. Going back to the training, we've learned to really slow things down and have more patience, like the deputy chief said, and the training has been very valuable. And so just to kind of pass it along to you, I think it's very good. For the newer officers coming into our profession, they get so much of that training now, and so it's a benefit to our community.
And if I could just mention real quick, if you haven't heard of it already, we actually developed or brought a program to our department a couple of years ago called Take Me Home. If you're not familiar with it, I've put the document on chat. And this program is actually meant for registration process for any individuals who might be nonverbal or have difficulty speaking with first responders if we were to contact them due to a cognitive impairment or during times of stress or if they're alone. It's very popular. A lot of people have registered. It just gives the officers an opportunity if, say, a passerby or if one of our patrol officers contact somebody who maybe eloped or got a little confused after they left home and couldn't find their way back. that if they weren't able to communicate with us because of stress or distress, that we would be able to go into that database and maybe put in their physical characteristics or something that was unique for them and find them. And that registration form that's submitted would give us all of their contact information, any emergency information that we might need to know, give us information on where they live so we can bring them back. It's free to register. I attached the information onto the chat if you want to take a look at it. But it's also something that we introduce to all the new officers when they come and join our department through what's called a pre-FTO training. So Sandra and I participate in that training as well. So every officer that comes that's new or laterals over, like the Seattle officers that we have newly joining us, they're instructed on this program. We kind of talk about its function, what its purpose is, why we put it into place here in our department, and why it's so important to us to make sure that we take special care of all of our community members, but certainly for those that might elope without the caretaker knowing, or that might have issues once they leave the house, to be able to get them to come back home. So if that sounds like something you're interested in for your son, please take a look at the information I've attached and just fill out the form and send me a forward-facing picture. This is information that only law enforcement has access to. It's something that other agencies, because we're the only agency that has this program in place in the region, but it's something that we're encouraging other agencies to be a part of as well. And I've sat down with several at this point to talk to them about it so they can get it up and running in their communities too. But and if you have any questions, I put my email address on this thread earlier, but it's also on the materials that I attached to the chat room.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. You had more questions?
I do, actually. I apologize. Just two more, I promise, and then I'll stop.
No, please.
So the other question that I had is, what outreach do you guys think should be happening right now, considering the racial unrest that's going on?
I think any outreach is good. And so any opportunity that we have like this today is a start. And so anything that gets a conversation going for us to get that input, if there's things that we need to know about or any changes that do need to be made, that's something that we need to hear and communicate with our community. So it starts with things like Coffee with a Cop, or for our unit, talking to people in neighborhoods, at businesses, or the business owners themselves, just to have that communication. And then as our newer officers come in and we develop that culture, just it's part of who we are. And that's a start on how we build trust and maintain trust. Kind of short and sweet, but I mean,
It's all it needs, short and sweet and to the point, right?
And I'm sure DC has something to add.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, and I think, and at the very beginning, I said, we've actually been doing that, or trying to do that for years, and getting out there, starting with the Mayor's Inclusion Task Force. We belong to the Renton African American Pastoral Group, the LGBTQ group in the community. So we belong to all these. There's the Hispanic group. John Awai, one of our sergeants, is phenomenal. He goes on the radio. He goes out and speaks with them. I mean, he gets calls every day, every night from the Hispanic group just with questions leading law enforcement, because that's a group that historically doesn't have a whole lot of trust for law enforcement. So we absolutely understand the need for that. It's paramount to us too. We always say, I think Ryan and I were even talking about this today, unless you have, I mean, the real measure of the success of a police department is the trust that the community has in you. You don't look at what the crime rate is. That may be what some people look at, because we don't have a whole lot of effect on a person going out and committing a crime. How we react to it is what has an effect on that. We do have a really low crime rate, by the way, but that's not really how we judge ourselves. We want to judge ourselves on the trust and legitimacy that the community puts in us. And so we do, we get out there, and we now more than ever, I think I said, all that work we did, and something happens, I don't know how many thousand miles away, just really crushed that. Now we're starting back up and meeting back with these groups and assuring them that that's not the way we act, that's not our culture, that's not what we teach, we don't believe in any of that. So yeah, it's absolutely paramount that we get out there, and that's where Sandra, Cyndie, and Stephanie are so good at helping us with it. 'Cause we're not always the best at getting out there, but they plan things like this. And with our inclusion task force and all the other groups that we have. I know Sandra's in the process of putting together a bunch more of these types of informal, smaller setting meetings so we can get out and talk to the public and be able to answer those kind of questions. But Sandra,
Yeah, so then I'll just finish up if I can on this question, because this is a great question, Shana. So, and this is really, you know, because I would say doing this a few years now, you know, our department for community programs, we've always been about engagement. But obviously, I think the difference is this year with things that have happened too, is we have so many more people now looking to their police departments. Maybe they just let us go on how we were doing. They didn't need us, right? Maybe they're fine. But now people are looking, saying, maybe I should find out more about my police department, right? Question what they're doing just in case. Because maybe they've never crossed paths with us or needed to years before, but now they do. They really want to get to know us and understand. So that's valuable to us. That's, you know, our social media is one way to reach people. We've seen the volumes growing there. So we know we have people hopping on to try to pay more attention. You know, the platforms we use when we reach out to people on Nextdoor, we love Nextdoor because that's specifically Renton community. Facebook, Twitter, that's kind of the masses, right? And so people who, the questions we get there maybe are different, but that doesn't capture everybody, right? Because not everybody has social media. So, but we have been putting out this year more, we started messages from our chief. So that was kind of a new campaign to kind of get from the chief down, kind of what his message is, right, on different topics, what's happening with our department. And then we have Stephanie in our department who's gearing up to do an Ask a Cop series. So kind of that's one different way where people can ask questions. And that gives us time where they're going to take the question. We could do a video, because let's say it involves our training, then we can put out some information on that. We're not just typing a little text out. We're actually going to, you know, put some time behind this question to give people a really thorough answer. And then we've been doing polls. So we tried to do we recently did a survey with our community through the mayor's newsletter, and then I've been reaching out through Nextdoor for some community polls, but we're not done. You know, we're just kind of starting and trying to narrow down topics that people really want to talk to us about. And then the chamber helping us host this Coffee with a Cop is one. We will be reaching out to communities where we can have a group like this. If it's 100 people that want to join, then maybe we would do breakout rooms. So someone who wants to talk to us about tactics, police tactics, could go in this room, and someone who wants to talk about engagement can go to this room. School resource officers, they can go here, right? Because what some of our questions can't be answered. When you have a group of 100, it's hard to be personal, right? It's hard to have this kind of connection like we're all doing, and everybody gets a chance to speak. So we really want it to be kind of like these small Coffee with a Cop things we've been doing for so long, because it is more casual. People feel more comfortable. And so we're hoping that we're reaching out in all the different ways we can. Like Cyndie mentioned, we're heavily involved with our regional agencies. We have a crime prevention group and a community program group. We try to meet at least every quarter. We share information. There's nothing we don't share with each other. And if someone's got a great successful program, then we want to hear about it. And the same with our programs. They know about something we're doing. We love to share it with them, because we're just always talking about, you know, making each other better. We don't all have the same resources, so we get really creative. We try to help maybe another agency do stuff, or we'll look at something, okay, maybe we can't afford that, but how can we, right? Because we don't have, let's say Seattle, because maybe their social media team is 50 people. You know, we're talking about, we have 3 people here. So it's obviously a little different, right? But we're hoping that we're reaching all of you and the diverse groups. Like we talked about, putting people in the right positions who have that connection, inclusion task force, our Hispanic sergeant, all these different avenues that we can, you know, and we're still, you know, thinking, and we're open to you guys giving us suggestions on how to reach people all the time. So.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys answering all of my questions. And such amazing answers. So thank you. Just my last question, because I know you guys get asked a lot of like law enforcement type questions given your profession, but what do you guys like to do in your free time when you're not out being police officers? Like, what do you guys do? What is the secret?
What's the secret? Well, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, start with Deputy Chief?
No, we'll start with you, Ryan.
Oh, sorry.
Ryan, why are you trying to pass it on to him?
I know.
Exactly.
It's like,
Come
I
on.
need to think about it.
No, fantastic question. I appreciate it. Well, I have a family. I have 2 kids. They're, 14 and 12 now. And so we're involved in school, doing the virtual school just like you are. And so that's a challenge we're doing right now, just going through that and keeping people on task. Trying to be the good role model and mentor for that. We're involved in sports, just like, most of you guys probably are. Doing a little bit of baseball, getting away from the county where they're allowing it in certain areas. And I like to landscape. I love doing that. I love to weld. I used to have a welding business on the side, but again, just takes too much time, but I do have a passion for it and art. I like to fish, get out and hike. Got a couple dogs, so I'm pretty boring, but I would just say basically just a family man, and that's it.
It's so nice to know that you guys are humans too, because I think sometimes people forget that when they have conversations with you guys, that you guys aren't just a cop. You guys are family men. You guys have lives. So I think that that's something that's kind of, not a lot of people realize that.
I think you hit right on it. This is our job. It's not necessarily who we are, right? I mean, it defines us to a point, but we have lives outside of this. Before Ryan even started, I was gonna say, my answer is gonna mimic almost exactly what he's gonna say. I have 2 great daughters, a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, doing the same thing. They're both involved in soccer, so not as much right now, but my free time's almost spent entirely with them. When you're here all day, just getting home and being able to hang out with them, even if it's helping them with homework or whatever it is such a relief, and it can bring you down from the stresses of when we're here. Much like Ryan, I mean, I'm not a welder or landscaper, but I used to have a contractor's license, so I really love to build. I used to build houses. So I'm always redoing something on my house now. Takes forever, but that's kind of, I've been married for a little over 20 years. So just enjoying family, just like Ryan. And it's just a nice stress reliever when you get away from here. So.
I find comfort in knowing that you guys have lives. I mean, like I said earlier, not a lot of people realize that you guys are more than just your uniform.
Right. Sorry. Not just a robot that comes here and acts. Yeah, exactly.
I do apologize. I have to run. I have 2 kids of my own that I have to cook dinner for before I put them to bed. But I appreciate all of your time today, guys, and all of the answers to my questions. So
yeah, sure. Bye. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Jesse, Sean.
I'd love to do a
Hey,
shout
Sean.
out. Yeah.
It's so good to see you guys.
Hey, Sean.
I'm sorry I was behind the power curve, and Diane just let me know that this was going on. I was like, where do I need to be? So
We gave you a shout out at the very start.
I appreciate that. Diane mentioned that, and I was like going, it's like my people. It's like, so I'm really happy to be with you guys again.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, Sean, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was with Starbucks in the social impact team. And was part of it. But when I first came in with the company 6 years ago, I was the district manager for the Renton Tech Willow stores, and I immediately established a very natural rapport with the Renton Police Department, and it's just continued to this day. I mean, every time I see it, it's like it's the intent of the whole Coffee with a Cop program, because Starbucks was really big into leaning into and building those relationships, not only to leverage our stores, but to help to facilitate that community conversation. And it was just the right thing to do. And it's like, it's from when I just started walking into the Renton Starbucks and seeing, Tracy and John, and it's like knowing everyone by first name. It was just a great partnership to form. So I then after 3 years went on to our social impact team and was able to work on the program and law enforcement engagement strategy more at a national level. So really enjoyed and appreciate it. But at the same time, I always held up the RPD as being like the benchmark for the local organizations for us to work with.
Great teams work great together, right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, Sean, Heather, who took over as district manager for you, I mean, you couldn't have picked a better person to follow your lead.
That's
She's
great.
wonderful to work with. So we, just so all of you guys on there, yeah, district manager helps us, you know, coordinate copy the cop. But I'll meet with Heather just because, and we'll check in on things. So it's a great relationship for us. So, and you guys employ so many people in our city, so many of our residents enjoy you know, of course. So it's just a great relationship. We appreciate it.
Well, and that's awesome. And more from a city level, I'm still actively on the Renton Chamber of Commerce on the board. So, you know, my loyalty still lays with supporting the city. So even though I'm gone, so to say, in title, I'm always there, and I always have strings to be able to pull on your behalf if you ever need it.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, we have Nikina. Nikina, you're not on the video. I think you're there though. Did you wanted to ask something following up Shayna's question?
Yeah, I did. It's funny because she asked that question just kind of about what these guys like to do in their off time. And I mean, I know that you are human just like the rest of us, but of course you have a really difficult job. I was wondering, kind of to piggyback off of that, I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of shit going on right now in the country. So what keeps you guys up at night? Like when it comes to your family and your kids and just your own life, what is it that keeps you guys up at night?
Wow. I think it's probably the exact same thing that keeps you up at night. And honestly, and I have 2 teenage daughters, so that's probably enough said right there.
Yeah.
And one just started driving, who's an absolute sweetheart and angel, but still every time she leaves, I mean, it may not be her. I'm worried about the other person that's out there.
You have other problems going on top of just, the national problems that are going on.
But yeah, we worry about, I mean, and honestly, it's hard not to take some of what's going on in the nation home with you. And just understand, I mean, I'm sure Ryan as actually being out there a lot more than I am, but I can just be on my way driving home and have people flipping me off for no other reason, except for the uniform that I'm wearing. And I can just imagine, and I know I've been out with, you know, Ryan and some of the guys on the street. I know when they're out on the street, they're probably getting a lot more appreciation from people than they are either ignoring them completely or saying something derogatory to them. But still, and you know, trying to have that conversation even with your family, because all of their friends and everyone else knows that, hey, their dad's a cop.
Right.
So I guess the good thing is that they're not actually in a school right now, and they're doing everything virtual. But how do you prepare them to have that conversation?
Right.
What are they going to do when someone comes up and starts accusing, you know, their dad of your dad's this, your dad's that?
Right.
So, you know, those are the stressors that you think about, and something, you know.
It's interesting, John, that you say that, just because I'm a Black woman and I don't have any children, but, you know, of course, we have to have different conversations now with especially the little boys, you know, and our families. And so it's interesting to hear you come at it from a different side. I mean, regardless, we all are having to have these conversations with our kids about how to handle being in public, how to handle when, you know, you might get pulled over by a police officer, or how to handle when someone approaches you because your dad or your mom might be a cop.
Right.
So it's really interesting just to hear that other side of it, you know?
Right. So yeah, same story, you know, we all have kids, we're all going to stress about them.
Right.
You know, how do they handle themselves?
Yeah.
And I've told, I don't know if Ryan's had this conversation, but I've told, you know, just go ahead and walk away. I mean, you don't have to stick up for me in any place.
Right.
You know, the place that person's coming from isn't some place that you need to go.
Right. I think the kids is what just personally keeps me up at night when we talk about climate change and everything. You know, I think about my 3-year-old niece and where are we going to be 20 years from now? So again, why I say it's just interesting to hear you talk about your kids and, you know, what you guys need to say to them, because in all realms of the spectrum, I think we all have to be having these different, you know, these hard conversations. So.
And hopefully, if anything comes from this, it's an evolution. And when you say where are we at 20 years from now,
Right.
I can only pray that we're in a better place.
Agreed.
That parents don't have to have that conversation.
Agreed.
And, you know, I just add a little bit, you know, same with John. My kids are 12 and 14. I have one daughter, so I'm always in the driving stage, but, you know, yeah, you worry about your family, but, you know, the conversations we have is about, you know, equality and their generation to be better. And, you know, they're going to make it better. We need to make it better for them the best we can by having those conversations.
Right.
And how important diversity is. And, you know, something I talk about is any contact that you have with anybody in your life, they're going to know something that you don't know. And so that's a good way to look at it. It's a good icebreaker because you need to know about everybody's background. Everybody's interesting. Everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, there's those conversations. But yeah, the things, you know, just normal, what you worry about. But yeah, we try not to take too much home. You know, it's that release when you get home that, you know, relief to be.
That'd be hard. That's got to be really, really, really difficult. I can't imagine that being it.
You know, we like to go out to businesses with our significant others and our families and and, you know, just go talk to people in our community and just be normal people.
That's cool. But I think earlier in the conversation, somebody had mentioned just talking about, you know, none of us know what to do. We're all kind of looking for, I feel really weird that you guys can't see my face, but trust me, you don't want to see me right now. But, you know, what can we do? You know, what is it that we, you know, people they want to know what to do, but what can you really do? And I've been having this struggle. And I think it's just this right here. I happened to be scrolling through my email. I wasn't even planning on being on this call. I'm really glad that I called into it. But it's stuff like this, I think, that if somebody just wants to know, how do you just begin? I mean, it's just starting to have these conversations. And I mean, I don't know what kind of opportunities there are as far as volunteering or being, you know, involved with the police departments as, you know, at a voluntary level. But I mean, I would love to be doing something like that. I'm the one that put in the chat, and I have a 3-year-old niece, and she is obsessed. She wants to be a police officer. She says it every day. And of course it's going to change 50,000 times, but she even says, I want to be a cop. So she just loves the whole idea of being a cop. And again, in this day and age, I want her to see the other side of what we've been seeing on TV and everything else that's been going on.
I appreciate you saying that. That's awesome. Anything we could do to do that, to give some of that outreach, to talk to kids, any opportunity we can do, we're willing, we're open. And so
awesome.
Be happy to share my contact information with you as well.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Even if she could just come up and like just see a police car in real life. Oh my God, she would be like the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, anytime we're out and about, we're always willing to do that here.
That's so cool.
Any and everybody in my unit is willing to do that any day. And
cool.
As we commonly do when we're out on bikes, we try to contact the kids as much as we can. It's tough right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And little footballs, and that's with Sandra and Cyndie and Stephanie. They get us all that great, you know, I guess what do you call it? Special item. We're not promoting the kids, but you know they like it. They like the football.
I appreciate what you guys are doing out there. It cannot be an easy job, especially right now. So just
thank you. But we really do. We really out on the street, especially out on bikes, or out on foot patrols. We get so many positive comments from the community that it's so refreshing. You know, you get a picture of negative ones, but you know that's anytime. In my 16 years here, you get a little bit of that. That's normal.
Sure.
I don't take it personal.
But more overwhelming positive than negative.
Overwhelming.
Good.
The guys and gals in our department, you know, they talk about that a lot, and so you know.
That's great.
That helps.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And just if I can just spin off of Nikina's comments and questions. I mean, I think you guys have done a lot to kind of create your own destiny and your fate. I mean, I think you guys, and from what I've observed and what I've seen, is that there haven't been a lot of negative stories coming about the Renton Police Department's interactions with the community. And I know that this goes with a strategy on like asking questions and really connecting with the individuals before you pass judgment. And I saw that video that you guys put out in partnership with the Renton Police Department's Tukwila, about really kind of saying that you stand for the equity lens, looking at your policing through the equity lens. So I think that really, I believe that it really bodes well for you. I guess a question that I have is that how do you create that environment internally? What like diversity training are you looking to do, or do you do for new recruits and ongoing recruits? I know I have a little bit of insider baseball with the Seattle Police Department because I was on the board there for the foundation, and I know like what a struggle it was in getting going, and then they had to put everything on pause because of COVID, and are finally looking to get an online program going. But if you don't, I know I'm throwing a lot of like questions and comments at the same time. If you don't have anything, do you have like connections with other police departments who have like already invested in this diversity training and that are willing to share?
I think what you're hitting on is the culture of our department and how we've gotten there. When we talk about this diversity training, the city actually has hired, I'm not sure what Benita's title is.
Benita. Yeah.
Benita Horn, who
Yep, Benita.
for the last probably, I'm going back, I think 4 or 5 years, has been on staff with the city. And we've every year, at least every 18 months, she's put on another diversity class for us. So we get a lot of the diversity training through her, but I think it's really through our hiring and our training of people that really cements that foundation that she's laid for us. And really, we talked about a little bit earlier with our core values and what our expectations of officers are. And we're a small enough department, maybe not like Seattle, but if someone does something that's inappropriate, it's either stopped there, or if the officer doesn't stop it, we're going to hear about it and we're going to take whatever corrective action we need to. So people, I think, understand here that there's certain things that are going to be unacceptable and they're going to be dealt with.
And I'm gonna, if I could just kind of pipe in real quick, because John's being very humble. So our background process for our officers here at this department is incredibly long, and there's a reason for that. And so, Sean, you've already recognized too that kind of how we survive instances of crisis when it happens in other parts maybe of the country. I think because we've laid that foundation for years and years and years for a culture in our department, like DC Schuldt said. But it takes a year from the moment we even offer a job to somebody until they're out on the street on their own. And we have had an inclusion task force and committees and organizations and bias-based training. I mean, we've been doing that for years. I've been here 26 years, and we have always had that as far back as I can remember. The inclusion of Benita has been pretty awesome to have a consultant like that join our city, because it certainly helps us expand that same type of training, since that's her specialty. But we have a very high standard at our department for the people that we hire, not just police officers, everybody. And there's a reason why our background is so lengthy and so intensive, because we really want people to come here and represent the department at a very high standard. That's an expectation for all of us. And that has not changed from the moment I got hired in 1993. It has consistently been that way. And it's tough, people will apply here because we have a great reputation, and maybe the process for us is a little more intense and stringent than it might be for other locations. So sometimes we go without positions being filled for maybe a little longer, because we're not going to just fill a spot. You have to fit into our environment. You have to understand our mission statement. You have to absolutely believe in it. And if you don't, that gets vetted out pretty darn quickly. And we're all very close here, of course, but I mean, you could do things quickly, but maybe not at a high quality. And I had never seen our department try to rush any backgrounds. And sometimes people have to go maybe apply elsewhere because maybe the fit just isn't quite right for us. So, but it's worth it, right, in the long run, if you do all the work in the front. So then hopefully you don't suffer, so to speak, in the back, right? That's my 2 cents after 26 years.
And really quick, if I can talk a little bit more about what Cyndie mentioned, what our mission is. And this has been our mission for years. I think it really speaks to what's going on today and the framework of our department, but it's working together to provide professional and unbiased law enforcement services to our community. I mean, we've recognized for years that any type of enforcement shouldn't have any biases involved. And again, that's one of those things, along with our values, is really hammered into people and what the expectation is.
When Cyndie's talking, I try to mute so I don't hear the back. I don't give you guys feedback noise. Christy, were you waving? You're on mute.
I was waving, and then I was waving to Manami saying goodbye.
Oh.
Because she's obviously going to go have a pina colada right now.
I have to leave. Okay.
Oh,
okay.
I did have a question, if you don't mind. I really appreciate the fact that you're really making a point to differentiate yourself. Being a downtown business owner, you guys have been great. I've been able to come to, the coffee sessions or Spark meetings, and it's been 3 times. It's taken that time to build the trust, because I'm a person who takes stop signs as a suggestion. As you might, so therefore my relationship is a little shaky. But how can we support you as we go forward? If I really believe, I do believe, because I now have heard Officer Ryan speak, I have heard DC Schuldt speak, and I believe the words that actually are coming out of your mouth, which is amazing, because they're not just words, they're actions. And it's apparent. So how can we support you during this challenging time with the community?
That's a great question. Well, I think it's just, in my experience, is just to be supportive, and that goes a long way, because that, when we're doing our job, it just makes things so much easier that we know we have that support from you, and and just passing that along. You said you're a parent, to your kids. We are here to help, and if you want to come meet us, you can. We're open. We want to be transparent, and we appreciate you saying that that you believe we're sincere, because we are. So that goes a long way.
I think even talking to other, when you have a good experience, I think I touched on it a little bit ago. Telling other people that, hey, if I know the Renton Police Department, they're not this way. Just even telling, if the questions come up or in conversation, or what I see from my department, that helps, because then again, it's better than that negative that goes out and then brands us for a long time, versus someone who's supportive like that. I know we often take sometimes a beating at our city council meetings, but there's a few people in the city that don't feel the same. But definitely, and then that's where Ryan even was talking to it earlier, when his guys are out, just hearing the words of support, help them with their job, or kind of keep that stiff upper lip when they're going out there and having to do what they have to do.
May I ask a follow-up question? I am a huge proponent of the social justice movement, and I do have BLM in Post-it notes on my window, right under Erasmus, right? So as a police officer, do you see the BLM movement as, because the platform for the Seattle protests is defund the police. When you see that around town, how does that make you feel? And as with me as a business owner, and I have a protest sign in my back of my car, which hopefully I don't get pulled over. But you know what I'm saying? How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Okay.
Again, I think like earlier we talked, that there's obviously issues and biases within the social justice system. And if an unfortunate situation is going to force our hand and bring about an evolution, like it's a positive. I don't think anyone looks at the Black Lives Matter or the Black Lives Movement as a negative. I think what some people have taken the opportunity to jump on because of it is obviously a negative, but the movement itself, I don't think, you know, the opportunists that have, you know, gone out and caused the mayhem with it, that's an issue, but the movement itself, not at all.
Yeah, I think any more than we want to be painted with a broad brush when something negative happens with an officer who does such a horrible thing like what happened in Minneapolis. We don't use that broad brush either for organizations that want to have a voice. I mean, that's the great thing about this country, right? And I know it's very difficult, I think, for a lot of these folks, because sometimes maybe they would look at a particular movement and think they're a part of the problem. Well, if you really looked into the BLM, you would understand that they're really just, they want a voice and they can protest peacefully. Those aren't the folks causing problems.
No, Cyndie, thank you so much for saying that. And I'm not trying to speak for all the Black people, because I hate when people do that. But you know, just in general, it's like we're all just out there. I just really appreciate you guys saying that. You know, oh gosh, I know we're all going through it. DC, Schuldt, I think, does that stand for?
Deputy Chief or
Deputy Chief. Okay, sorry. Everybody kept saying DC. Like, what does that mean?
No, you can call me John.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, so yeah, I just, you know, just to kind of reiterate everything I've already been saying, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. You know, it's such a difficult time out there. I was wondering kind of what you guys are going through when you're out there in the community. I'm glad that you're not getting it as hard as we are. It seems to be going in other parts of this country. I think that at least Western Washington, we're pretty good over here. We're trying to do what we can.
Well, we had several protest groups that came down here to City Hall, and we worked, I thought, very well with them. We coordinated beautifully with the organizers of those groups, and we made sure we stood by to give them the opportunity to speak without disruption. And they, you know, anybody has the right to do that, and just
exactly.
Someone may disagree doesn't mean they can't come there. They were all very respectful, and we stood by
there because I'm 45 and I'm too afraid to be around that many people at this point in my life. But yeah, you know, other than obviously the Capitol Hill situation, which I don't even understand anymore. I used to live in downtown Seattle and Capitol Hill. Now I live in Tukwila, but I'm proud of how just Western Washington in general, and maybe Eastern Washington. I just don't know about what's going on over there really, but just how we've been handling things over here. So.
Yeah, and I think that's reflective again on how you've handled the situation, because you're right, there have been, you know, the similar protests that have occurred, but you guys got proactively in front of that and addressed it. And I like hearing it's like you can't just blanket statement the BLM movement. You know, and I joke about it. I can half speak for it because I'm half Black, half white. But I think it's just that. I mean, there's no one standard definition of that, because even within Seattle, it's like I can't speak to the way that the Capitol Hill situation unfolded. It was, you know, ridiculous on my behalf, but people were trying to paint a broad brush. Even they, amongst the BLM, they were trying to claim that all the BLM was defund the police department, which was not the case. There were a lot of people who stood behind Chief Best.
I can tell you right now that not all Black people do not want defunding of the police. That just doesn't even make any sense. That's ridiculous.
Silliness. But then again, just keep that objectivity.
Right.
That bodes well.
Right. So just so you know, we're on your side too. I'm only one of us, but just so you know.
No, it starts with one.
There you go.
And you know, you do have a lot of advocates that are out there, and I know that oftentimes it's hard to like tell your own story and come to your own defense, but I mean, feel free. I mean, it's like I'll offer myself up if you need like the community voices to be able to kind of to push a message or to present a message on our social media. You know, people like me would be absolutely willing to go out and state something on behalf of what you guys are doing on the I Love Renton Facebook page, for example.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikina. And Christy, did we answer all your questions? Okay. And Christy, by the way, I did see you on TV.
Well, Okay. I hope I look, thank you. I hope I look good.
You did. It was great little show. I just had to give her a little shout out there because that was fantastic. We were just talking about your cheese today. I was talking to the chief and deputy chief about the little shop.
Okay.
Dude, cheesecakes are on the way October 15th, y'all. So get down there. It's all about you and cheese.
Anybody else have a question? I know, I'm trying to see. I don't see any hands raised right now.
I don't know how to raise hand.
Oh,
Barbara.
Dominic.
I've been so silent this whole time. Chrissy, I
Yeah.
still remember how to make cheese, so thank you for that. For that valuable lesson. I found it interesting. You guys mentioned this whole, like, false alarm thing that's happening and how many of them are false alarms. I actually read an article about it last week, I think it was, and I was blown away by how prevalent that is. So I'm glad you guys have found ways to make that less common. If you just look down the list of things that you guys respond to, what's one other thing that you wish was not there as much so you can spend your resources and time elsewhere?
Ooh, I could answer that, but
I'd love to hear your opinion, Cyndie.
Yeah.
really? No, you guys.
We can take a poll.
The uniform guys. In fact, Commander Rutledge, this is right up your alley.
Right, this is, yeah.
All right. Well, again, please call me Ryan, like John. I mean, it's hard because, part of our culture is we want to help. And so any call that comes through, it's almost like we want to go help. We want to help on that call. We want to take that call on. And so it's hard for me to just say there's one call that I wouldn't want to respond to. So it's kind of a difficult question. But I think there's maybe like new ways we can look at it. And I think there's been some conversations about it that Deputy Chief may be able to have more insight on. But maybe that's part of something that we start to review of how we're responding to certain calls and different resources that are available that maybe we could look into helping resolve those issues that come up. So it's hard for me to think of a specific incidents where I would just say no, we don't want to be involved in that.
And I don't think, sorry, kind of what Ryan, I think, is alluding to, too, is there's calls that are the police department the best ones to be responding to that call, particularly mental health issues. I mean, typically, you're probably going to want an officer there for safety reason, but should they be the one initiating contact? Maybe not. Maybe that could be better done by someone with a little bit more training in, mental health or something like that. That would be, and I think that's what a lot of when you hear the defunding the cops, I think a lot of people want to put more resources towards some of those alternatives. And we think those, I think we've been saying that for years, is that some of these calls, you should probably have someone with a little bit more background.
Just like Shayna, I'm sorry. Kind of like what Shayna was talking about earlier, just having the proper people out there to deal with certain situations if they're autistic or whatever it is.
And then also through what we get now for training and really through experience, we've become fairly good at dealing with those kind of calls now. But they're going to need more help beyond what we're able to give them.
Yeah.
We can have that initial contact, and we can, maybe if it's a case where we have to involuntarily commit them for psychiatric reasons, that hold's not going to last very long, and they're going to end up being right back out on the street. Right. And it's a cycle that we keep going through. So having, someone with a little bit more experience, more adept at dealing with those would only help, society in general.
And you guys are all for that?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's exactly actually what I was going to say.
Oh, see?
Yeah, more resources to free up for them to do other things too, if you can have that. Dominic, did that answer your question? Okay, and then Barbara, you had a question, I think?
I do. I have a comment. Yeah. I'm privileged to be in this setting. I feel like I'm kind of vicariously part of it, but not really. I'm not a business owner. And I actually retired 26 years ago when I was pregnant with our first child, and I'm not employed, all of that. But we have been in this community for 26 years raising our family, and I support it. And I support police and your endeavors and your hard work and all of that. But really, I'm not sure why I'm on this Zoom. My husband is Chief Information Security Officer at PACCAR in downtown Renton, and sent me this link saying, this is right up your alley. This is exactly what you love. Why don't you jump on? So here I am. Not trying to demean that I'm just a private citizen, but anyways. I find it fascinating from my situation that just yesterday, I stopped at the local fire department on my way home, just drove into the department and was going to walk in and say, how can I help? What can I do? And of course, they've got the big sign on there that says, due to COVID, nobody from the public is allowed. And so I took a picture of it, sent it to my husband, and said, okay, I tried. And now I'm sitting here on this Zoom, and I'm like, darn it, now I feel like I have another opportunity that I have to do something. So my question to you is, how can I help?
Well, that's a great question, Barbara, because
but I want to tell you, like, even on the small level, before you answer, Sandra, like on a small level, what can I do to help you personally so that you can do your more effectively? Like, can I'm very good at organization and can I clean a break room? Can I help you storage cabinet that would help your life be easier, efficient? Like, what can I do?
Well, you're very sweet. And, like Cindy was saying earlier, we missed this kind of face-to-face because just being back with you guys and all the interaction, and look how different everybody's questions are or what they want to talk about. And you just, because your husband sent you a link, here you are. And I mean, you're offering to clean a break room. So, and of course, we're going to hold up the same sign as fire department right now that says, well, due to COVID, we have a huge volunteer program. Stephanie, who's not on this specific call, but will be on future ones, she oversees that volunteer program. And I think she grew it from maybe 10 volunteers to well over 20 in just a short time because of people like you that just wanted to maybe once in a while help us at a major event like Renton River Days, or maybe someone wants to work at our just second floor reception desk, right? And work with the detectives, or downstairs filing records for us, or greeting customers at the counter, but they're getting to do a small part for a couple hours a day, or even 2 hours a week, because maybe it's an event once a month and it's just some way they contribute. So right now I would say if our volunteer would be the first thing I would always suggest to you, but I have to, we have to pause right now because of COVID. So table that idea. So when we hopefully open back up, we will welcome tons of volunteers. And we have tons of opportunities and ways that you can interact that works with your schedule, makes you comfortable, and helps, you feel good and we feel good. So we love our volunteers. There's a lot of jobs we can't do without them. But then second, I think you just being here, so you just joined us. And as Tina talked earlier, what's the small thing I can do? Well, here you are. You just participated in this conversation. You got to learn a little bit about our department. We got to hear a little bit from you. And now guess what? We all go share this information with other people. Or now you're going to go have a conversation with a group of friends or your family and say, wow, I just had this conversation with Renton Police Department, and did you know this? And then we're going to walk down the hall and go, wow, I heard this from our community. We should talk about this. So think of the spread that's happening. It's like this domino effect. But then maybe next time, if Nikina says she lives in Tukwila, right, Nikina? So if you have a Tukwila coffee with a cop or some kind of community event, maybe she'd join that. Or she has a couple of friends that live, you know, down in Olympia. And then she says, hey, you should check it out if Olympia does this.
Sure.
So then people start tagging on and maybe doing this. So this small group of 10 today becomes 20 the next time.
Barbara, you and I might need to unite once all of this is over.
Yeah, yeah. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you are just by sitting there listening.
Yeah.
And now at the end, you throwing this out here, your purpose and what you're getting out of it, and just what you want to do. We so appreciate that, and that's exactly what this kind of venue is for. So I hope I answered it. If not, Deputy, you know, or anybody else can tag in. But does that help, Barbara?
It does. Yeah, it does. And because of COVID, it's frustrating. I typically volunteer anywhere from 12 to 50 hours every week, and I've done that for 15 years.
Wow.
And now I'm down to three
Wow.
hours volunteer work.
Wow.
So I want to be used, and emergency, and you know, I'm a CERT member, Certified Emergency Response Team. I'm really good in emergency situations. I'm very good in pivoting quickly, but I'm also really good at cleaning a closet. So
Well,
I just want to get
my break room, i.e. my kitchen, because that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we appreciate that offer, of course. We have facilities here still at City Hall, and they obviously handle all that kind of stuff, Barbara. But I put some links to everybody for Stephanie's email, and then we also have actually a police volunteer page on the city's website. And granted, as you guys know, we're not in the phase where we can have any of our volunteers here right now, but I'm pretty sure, I pray, I hope there's a day that we get to have them back again. So if that's something you're interested in, take a look at that link. It kind of lists all the volunteer jobs that we typically have available once we're all up and running again. And if any of those sound good to you, then please fill out the volunteer registration form and shoot it to Stephanie. And like Sandra said, if you don't want to do a consistent volunteer job, then our community engagement events, we have folks that just come and do those sporadically. So there's a whole wide variety of opportunities to include volunteers. And we really, for myself, I just want to say it's been very difficult for me. I'll speak for me, but I think it's been difficult for a lot of us with everything that's going on. Like COVID wasn't hard enough, but my serotonin level has raised exponentially just since I've been in this meeting. I was on the verge of tears just a couple of times because the feedback that we get from our community, I forgot how important that was to me. It really means a lot, everything that you guys have said and how supportive you are. And we work really hard for you. This department really is exceptional. And I get that I'm biased, but it really is something to be proud of. And I've never even had an inclination to want to go anywhere else. I'm just way too proud to represent the city. But it really did a lot for me tonight to be with you guys, to hear what you had to say, how supportive you are, and how much you want to help us. Honestly, I have goosebumps right now. So I just want to say thank you. You made me so happy tonight.
Aw.
Girls. That's what boys are thinking.
Girls. We're so emotional.
Christy, you're making me jealous. So next time we have one of these, I will definitely be video ready, and I'm going to have my doggies in the camera too.
No, Christy's cute dog.
Well, the dogs, they distract from everything else, right? So.
I don't know if you guys caught it, but
Manami?
Did you see her cat butt?
Dude.
Her cat walked across the street and gave us a nice shot. That made my night.
I didn't see that. It'll be on recording.
It was recorded. We can save it for later for YouTube.
That was my favorite part. Almost.
And then Barbara, one thing I would add, Cyndie mentioned it, but I think kindness is contagious. And so, in the short term before you have an opportunity to do an official volunteer, just saying thank you goes a long way, and we appreciate that. And then that's something that we could kind of pay it forward to, because so kindness is a good thing.
So the
thank
next
you.
time I see a bike cop on the street, I'm going to stop him just to say thank you. And you better stop.
Aw.
Sorry, question. I really wanted to end it on your cuteness, since Cynthia, Cyndie, I don't have my glasses on, so sorry.
Hey, my
Cyndie,
mom named
right?
me Cynthia. Yeah.
I feel really sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to have my mom tone on if I called you.
Oh no, that's
But-
my real name.
Really quickly, I actually do have another question. Random. Do any of you know how I might pursue any type of training for like a 911 operator? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so at least I have to, it seems like I always have to preface everything by saying pre-COVID, but pre-COVID, there is actually a training or a class at Renton Technical College specifically for 911 dispatchers. It's amazing, and it's in preparation, of course, for anybody that might be interested in that sort of job. So you might look into that. And then the other one is Valley Communications is our dispatching center. And they have a academy pre-COVID that they offered. So you might want to check in with Valley Communications to see if they're offering that possibly online. I know that Stephanie Hines is trying to work out a way to offer our community academy virtually until we can all meet again. So check with Valley Communications to see if maybe they're trying to set something like that up for their 911 dispatcher academy. So those are two completely separate things, but Valley Communications dispatches for the whole valley. Not all police departments have their own dispatching center within their department. So Valley Communications, for example, is a dispatcher for all of Valley agencies, I think. Right, John, everybody?
Yep.
And they're a great outfit, great group. Laura Euland is actually the director of Valley Communications, but just go onto their website and see if they're offering that right now. And there'll be a contact list there too for you to reach out to somebody via email. And then, yeah, check out Renton Technical College to see if they're offering their class at all yet. I'm not sure. Are the community colleges offering? I don't know. Check it out.
I don't think, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Selfishly, can I take advantage of this platform to address two people I haven't talked to before? Barbara, first off to you. You'd mentioned that your husband works at PACCAR. Thank him. You had two individuals from PACCAR who attended our first ever community conversation addressing DEI in the workplace that Diane and I through the chamber are putting on in partnership with the city. So great job and show of PACCAR's investment in diversity and inclusion. And then my other comment is to Christy. When and where are the cheesecakes available?
Most important question of the night. On 3rd and Wells. The Dragon.
Are they available like right now or when?
Not right now, Sean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the 15th of October, we'll be
15th?
live. Yeah, 15th.
Okay. Yeah, I know where your shop is. I just want to make sure that I'm tracking.
Yeah, we got you. We got
And
you.
Chrissy, no cheese classes right now of any kind, right?
Not until phase 3, but yeah.
Yeah.
We could do Zoom. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Christy, are you taking pre-orders for your cheesecake?
That's something I might need to. I had no idea. I don't like cheesecake, but this cheesecake is good. So if you want, just find me. I'll get you some cheesecake.
All right. Deputy Chief, you were going to say something on Barbara's question. I think we kind of cut you off.
I was, but it was only to say I'm not sure why she went to the fire department first, and that's a little chink in the armor. And if you do volunteer with us, that's probably going to have to go down on your application, and we'll consider you at that point. But.
I will be sure to leave that off the application.
Yeah. That's cute. All right. Well, you got 10 minutes left or a few minutes left, so we could wrap it up if there's a last question. Make sure we don't miss anybody here. Or Diane, if you want anything you want to say.
I just want to thank you guys. I have great pride in our police department and the work that you do and how proactive you are into the community. And and the school resource officers. They're incredible and amazing in the feedback that we get from the teachers. And I had an opportunity to be in a meeting with Damian Patnod, the superintendent, just this week, and with the mayor on Monday, and he was singing the praises of the school resource officers and the engagement that you all have. So thank you for your genuine approach, and thank you for being a department that we can be proud of. There is certainly opportunity for reform and improvement across the nation in different departments, but thank you for being a department that we can say we're very proud of the work that you're doing within the community and as officers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to bring us all together tonight. This was,
Yeah.
again, our first, hopefully, of many.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
So like we said, or I was saying earlier, just, share your experience tonight. So then the next time we know we get more people and we have more interest and we can keep this going, because, with COVID, we don't know 2021. It doesn't mean just because the end of the year 2020, it doesn't mean this is all over. We may be doing this for quite a while. So this is just one of many. And so if people, like I said, whether it's Renton or another city, encourage people to talk to their police departments and find out what type of engagement you're doing, because we know, we work so closely with our Valley cities that we know they want to have these conversations too, and we're all working on it. So we'll continue this. I'm going to continue our relationship with Diane at the Chamber and Ashley to have more of these and different types. So, and maybe, different topics and things like that. So I appreciate all of you guys taking 2 hours of your night tonight to do this, and Diane, for you to have us and help host this, and Ashley too. And, not get as emotional as Cyndie was, or making us all cry again as us girls talk, right? But this is what it was, very special, and we're so appreciative of our community. And for those that you follow us on social media and all that, we get so much support in Renton, and so it does go a long way. We share it with our officers and stuff who are on the street, who maybe don't always get to see it trickle down from those platforms too, and the comments you guys make tonight. So we get to share that with people. So we really appreciate it, really do.
It helps a lot for me, just throw one little last thing in there. Like I was saying before, was just trying to figure out how can you help even just a little bit. You saying, going out to other cities and other chambers, which I am a part of because I do live in Tukwila and I'm right by Renton. Trying to get those conversations started, I think, is going to be my next goal.
Great. I love that. Thank you, Nikina.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
We want to see you next time.
I know. Next time you'll see my face.
Okay. And Deputy, anything you want to say before we wrap up then?
No, just again, thank you very much for everyone that participated, including our staff. I appreciate you guys sticking around, and it's a little bit off hours, but the importance of making these connections with the community again, or reconnecting, really, because
definitely
I haven't had the opportunities as much lately. So
yeah,
appreciate everyone coming together.
Yeah, and this has been recorded, so we're gonna take this and hopefully put it on our YouTube channel. So then, Ron, if someone did want to kind of see what you're talking about, we can, hopefully we'll have it there for them to see it.
Cool.
Okay. So I'm gonna log off here, but thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Appreciate
Have a nice
it.
night.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Sean, thanks for popping in. I noticed your hat.
What a nice
Yeah.
surprise.
Nice job. I still got my Starbucks coin right behind me.
That's vintage, and I still have my RPD coin.
Yes.
Good, thank you. All right.
Bye.
All right, thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.